Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers. Thank you for joining me tonight. This is Monday night, and on Monday nights, we address many of the political issues that are affecting the people that live in the United States of America. On Wednesday nights, we address the critical issues, and in particularly the crisis that is taking place in Canada. And this Wednesday night, we're going to have David Dolan on with us again. We're going to speak about a number of issues that are very critical right now to the people of Canada. And I've got some good news. I talked to Pastor Arthur, and we are soon to have him on one of our broadcasts, hopefully in mid-April. So we're still talking about a time and a date and what a gentleman he is. But before we go on with tonight's broadcast here in America, I have some breaking news out of Canada. It was just sent to me. I don't know when this happened, but I just received this report. And I want to be able to share it right now with the American audience, because a lot of you, of my fellow countrymen here in the United States, are very unaware of the national security crisis that is developing on the U.S.-Canadian border, all as a result of Prime Minister Trudeau transforming a wonderful, beautiful democracy into what I believe soon to become a communist foothold. So we just learned, and maybe a lot of the Canadians know this by now, but we certainly in America were unaware that this happened, that Calgary pastor Derek Remner, he was arrested. He was arrested while preaching on the streets. The report goes that under a court injunction obtained by the city to stifle and limit ongoing peaceful protests against vaccine mandates, Calgary police arrested Pastor Derek Remner, who was preaching on the streets as part of his weekly ministry to feed Calgary's unhoused population. Now, those of you in America, you're probably scratching your heads right now saying, is this true? I mean, how could the police go and arrest a preacher? How could they arrest a priest who's out there preaching for who? For the homeless, to feed those who need food, etc. Well, that's my point. That's what's happening in Canada. They are not allowed to protest even peacefully under these draconian laws. So my point is this, tune in Wednesday night. Tune in Wednesday night, no matter what country you live in, especially here in the United States, tune in Wednesday night, and you're going to be shocked over what's going on at our northern border. And the fact that we have politicians in this country, especially in our Congress, whose priority is the legalization of weed. Yes, the legalization of weed. And we'll get on that topic one night rather than the security of this country. All right. Before we bring on a young man named Michael Byrne, I know Mike for quite some time. He's a political strategist. We're going to have him come on board in a minute. And we're going to talk a little bit about the congressional races happening here in New Jersey. But I want to just bring to the people's attention certain things that are very, very critical. Look, I said leading up to this broadcast during the week, we're one step away from losing our democracy right now. That's right. One step away, because the United States Supreme Court has a nominee named Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. She has faced a barrage of questions from senators with regard to the confirmation hearings, and it now looks like she's going to be confirmed. Now, you remember it was Joe Biden who said the first qualification of the person that he was going to choose is that they have to be black. Those are his words. They have to be black. Doesn't matter if they were qualified or not. He said they have to be black. Now, look, I don't care if you're black, white, whatever. As long as you're qualified, it's fine. As you know, if we talk about an equal playing field, well, he made it clear it wasn't going to be equal. He made it clear that if you were Asian, if you were white, if you were some other color, creed, or religion, at least in my view, this is what he was saying, you're just not going to be even considered. So he decides to nominate this Supreme Court, this person for the Supreme Court. And as we listened to the hearings, I was stunned over the lack of ability, I would say, or the lack of knowledge, the lack of concern over the direction this country is going in. But here's the straw that broke the camel's back for me. Now, those of you in Canada who are watching, this might stun you. The question, I believe it was from Senator Cruz to the Supreme Court nominee, Judge Brown. The question was this. This is the one that broke the camel's back for me. Please define for me what a woman is. What is a woman in your view? There was this pause. There was this rolling of the eyes. There was this thinking. She never answered the question. When you have someone who is a nominee to the United States Supreme Court and can't define what a woman is, well, we've got problems. We've got problems in this country. Thank God that she's replacing a Democrat, not a Republican, or we'd really be in trouble. But then I find out about 10 minutes ago that 3 Republicans, yep, 3 Republicans, if you want to call them real Republicans, are now going to vote in favor of her confirmation. You got Senator Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, and of course, Mitt Romney. And this is why in the United States of America, we're in trouble, because Republicans consistently elect to office so-called Republicans who during the campaign say they're committed to conservative values, to a conservative agenda. And then after they're elected, what do? They turn their back on the very people who got them in office, and they decide to vote with the liberal end or with those who do not support a conservative agenda. But what's astonishing more than that is that when they run for re-election, the same people get reelected. So tell me how that works out. Well, maybe it's not going to happen this time in 2022. Now, the labs, the American people, I've been talking to many people around the country. What's going on with the labs? Are there labs? Are there not labs? Were there deadly bioweapons being created, financed by the United States? Was there not? Are they Russian? Are they Ukraine? Folks, you can't make this stuff up. The U.S. government is in such turmoil. You can't trust the president of the United States. You can't trust the Congress. You can't trust anybody in politics these days. So now the BBC, all right, they go out and do an investigation, and they say that the claims that the U.S. is involved in making bioweapons in Ukraine is false. This is what they say. I don't know, folks. I haven't looked into many of these investigations. I don't know. I got to tell you, on its face value, I don't believe them. But I could be wrong. And I don't believe them for this reason. That as the BBC put that report out, the U.S. government, the media reported that the U.S. government has admitted that there are a number of such facilities in Ukraine, that's the biolabs, that are funded by Washington that do research on deadly pathogens, albeit from a preventive perspective rather than to create a weapon. Now, look, folks, we're more sophisticated today than we were maybe 40, 50 years ago, maybe more than 10 years ago. I've always believed in transparency. Be honest. If we were involved in that kind of stuff, the American people should know that. We should know that. It's our tax dollars. And now, look at, as one American citizen, I am now wondering, why is it that we cannot find Hunter Biden's laptop? Does that have anything to do with all of this? I don't know. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't get involved in that kind of stuff. I like facts. But when there is a lack of facts, you draw some conclusions, or at least you think outside the box and you say, well, when the deputy director of the FBI cyber terrorism unit is before the United States Congress and answers this question. Ready, folks? Here's another question by, I think it was from Matt Gaetz, Congressman Matt Gaetz. Do you know where Hunter Biden's laptop is? Do you know where it is? The FBI is supposed to have it. Somebody's supposed to have it. Where is it? Well, this high executive officer in the FBI says he don't know. How is it your deputy director of the cyber division of the United States government, of the FBI, and you have no idea where Hunter Biden's laptop is? You see, folks, it boils down to the lack of transparency, the lack of being forthright, upfront, and honest with the American people. And this is why we don't trust a lot of facets of this government. Now, let me get to this point. Remember, I just talked about Canada losing their rights, losing their individual freedoms and liberties. And I hear Americans say, oh, boy, it'll never happen here. Well, it's happening here because something happened this past week. And Americans need to know this. Now, former Democratic congressman, all right, or congresswoman. Now, let me say this with you. She's a Democrat, right? But she has brains, all right? She has common sense. She gets it. She understands it. She's a veteran. I mean, she really has served this country well. Well, she comes out. She did run for president in 2020, but she's been accused. Listen to this now. This was stunning, shocking. First time I ever heard this in my life here, as long as I lived in America. She has been accused of treason. Treason, folks. You know what that is? A high crime and misdemeanor against the United States government. In the past, maybe today, even now, you get the death penalty for that, at the least life in prison. But she's been accused of treason. By who? By Senator Mitt Romney. Could you imagine a United States Senator, Mitt Romney, accusing a wonderful individual who represented this country in a balanced way, who fought for this country in the uniform of the United States military? United States Senator Mitt Romney accuses her of treason after she posted a 2-minute video calling for what? Listen to this. Calling for a ceasefire in Ukraine to do what? To enable any harmful materials to be removed, and accusing the Biden administration of a cover-up. Well, I'll tell you what. Mitt, you want to call, say that I'm treasonous? Well, I second it. I second her, Mitt Romney. I second what she said. We, the people, have a right to know what was in those labs. We have a right to know if the administration has anything to do with a cover-up. We have a right to know because we run the government, not you. So go ahead, Mitt. Send the charges. Send the FBI. Send the CIA. Send the drones over my house. Send what you want. My point is, folks, is that every step of the way, they, meaning those who embrace a communist agenda, that's right, Mitt Romney, and those who support you, that's absolutely right. I said it. When you don't defend the Constitution of the United States of America, when you don't stand on the value of that Constitution that says freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom of assembly, when you don't stand on that and accuse, let alone a former congresswoman and a hero war veteran, when you accuse an American citizen of treason for exercising their rights, their individual freedoms and rights of treason, you need to go. You need to be voted out of office forthwith. And I hope the people in that state get rid of him, get rid of Murkowski, and get rid of Collins. They deserve to be shown the door. And folks, that's what we need to do here in America. That's what you need to do in Canada. And that's what we're all going to do, folks. We're going to get together. We're going to work within the framework of the law, because the law is indeed on our side. Just all we got to do is organize. All we got to do is organize. I remember Lech Walesa in Poland. Man, he organized. Shipyard guy, hardworking guy. Man, did he organize. And he helped topple a communist regime that was led by the Soviet Communist Party. Well, we're going to do that here in America, and we're going to do it, obviously, in Canada. So just summing it up a bit, this part, maybe we'll get back to it a little later, but I'm going to have Mr. Byrne on now. The question is, where's the laptop? What's on it? Now, we found out, of course, some time ago that Mr. Hunter Biden had something to do with Ukraine, right? Wasn't there a company, a corporation that he received some money from? You know, let alone he allegedly received money from Moscow. But there is some information out there, and they think it's on the laptop, that he may have received some money from a company connected to Ukraine. What is that all about? Well, we're not going to find out, are we? We're not going to find out until we wake up as American citizens and we start calling our congressional representatives and letting them know that we want to find out. And, you know, we want to find out before the election comes in November 2022, because what we're going to do is we're going to base our vote on the decisions you make. And let this also be a notice, if you will, to Republicans who have turned their back on conservatives. Well, your days are numbered too. Your days are numbered, because there are now young men and women who are in the Republican Party, who are true conservatives, who are America First candidates. And at this point, I want to introduce to you a young man who I've known for many years. His name is Michael Byrne. Michael Byrne, he actually is employed primarily in the political field. He's working for conservative campaigns all across America. He's helping candidates in New Jersey, California, New Mexico, Louisiana, Ohio, New Hampshire, and West Virginia, among others, candidates who are America First candidates, who actually believe and stand on the Constitution of the United States. He's been involved in many campaigns, the 2016 presidential campaign, and he has been working with, and he has been engaged with, the Republican National Committee in 2018. Michael Byrne, welcome to our broadcast.
Pleasure to be here, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Mike, we've got a lot of contested seats around the country, here in New Jersey especially. I am focusing on the Congressional District 4, where a young man named Mike Crispy is running. Now, I pick up Mike Crispy's name because he's a young, talented individual, and he's actually challenging an incumbent who's been in many, many years, I think 4 or 5 decades. And look, I've always said this. I have nothing against the incumbent other than he is an incumbent. He's been there too long. He could have served well. I don't know him that well. He could have served well in the beginning. He could have done what is right, et cetera, et cetera. But when you're in office 5, 6 decades, it's just time to go. I believe in term limits. So Mike Crispy, to his credit, and I've heard Mike say this many times, that with regard to the incumbent, he has no animosity, no character assassination, and he actually commended him. Mike commended this fellow for his service, but said it's time to go, and I agree. So can you give us a little background of what's happening there? And I picked you to come on because that is a hotly contested race down there, and it may have a ripple effect across the nation.
Well, I think that's right, Steve. It's New Jersey 4 is now the most conservative district in the entire Northeast. It's a plus 25 Trump district after redistricting. And as you indicated, the incumbent, Chris Smith, is now the longest serving member of the House with the death of Don Young in Alaska last week. So Chris Smith has been there 41 and a half years. And President Trump has asked for somebody on the America First side of the party to run against him because, quite frankly, Smith has lost his way over the years. He started out all right back during the Jimmy Carter administration, believe it or not. But over the years, he's really, he's a strong word, but he has betrayed conservatives. He's betrayed the America First movement in many ways, whether it's voting to keep Obamacare after he said he was against it, voting for a national vaccine database, voting for to keep the Second Amendment, voting to I should say, I'm sorry to be distracted there, but voting against the Second Amendment. A lot of problematic votes over the years, and most recently, he threw Joe Biden a lifeline in voting for that big multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure bill. So this is a real problem in the Republican Party. This is what primaries are for. We have to elect conservatives in primaries, nominate conservatives in primaries, so that individuals like in the Freedom Caucus, folks like Jim Jordan, Lauren Boebert, Matt Gaetz, as you mentioned before, so that they have more support in Congress, and we can move the Congress in the direction of an America First policy setting body.
Mike, in the Congressional District 4, most of the candidates, I commend them for the way they've conducted themselves. There is a candidate in that district that I'll tell you is it's just sad, very sad. And when you personally attack people, when you attack their religion, when you attack family members, when you do that, you hurt the party and you hurt the country. And the way Mike has been attacked, again, I got to commend him. He's responded only in a positive manner. He's responded with dignity, with honor. You see that picture behind me, Mike? You know who that is, right?
I know who that is. That's the inspiration. He and Rush Limbaugh were my first inspirations, no doubt.
Yeah, well, that guy Ronald Reagan talked about the 11th commandment, and I would suppose that if every candidate for office was obedient to that commandment, the party would not be frowned upon, and neither would the country. Now, saying that, criticisms of Mike Crispy, I hear it all the time. Well, he's too young, he's inexperienced. Reminds me of a guy named Steve Rogers, who was criticized for being too young and inexperienced. Reminds me of a guy named Abe Lincoln. Now, with that beard, I'm not suggesting that you've been around during the Lincoln years, but doesn't that remind you of something there, Mike?
Well, listen, Mike is on the younger side. He's 29 years old, but he has a great enthusiasm and a great passion for making a difference in Congress. And it's interesting. New Jersey 4 is a lot of retired folks from northern New Jersey have moved down there. This is along the Jersey Shore, Monmouth and Ocean counties, and we hear unsolicited, unprompted, time and time again from an older generation that come out to grassroots events that they say Chris Smith has been there too long. They say Chris Smith has lost his way. They say we need younger people getting involved. And so I think Mike's campaign is going to resonate. It is resonating already. We qualified today, filing more petitions than any other candidate except Smith. But what's interesting, Smith as an incumbent filed less signatures, fewer signatures than nearly every other incumbent in the state for Congress. And all of his Republican challengers in this district, taken together, doubled the number of signatures that Smith filed. So there's not a lot of love for Chris Smith in this district at this point. And I think he's going to have a problem on June 7th. It's only 64 days away. And Mike, as you indicated, is running a campaign on the issues. He's sticking to the issues because that's what people care about. In the last several years, we've seen the party move in the direction of America First policies. They want to hear from authentic candidates who believe in America First policies, who are not getting involved in politics to make a buck or to control a county party or to control a seat for 3, 4, 5 decades. And so Mike's doing very well. And, he's appreciative of your support, and I'm appreciative of your support as well.
Let's talk about that for a minute with regard to the so-called establishment politicians. Every day, I'm getting emails and texts and all kinds of communications about how these powerful people are endorsing establishment politicians, county chairs, who I admire. I think the county chair men and women in the state do a good job, but I'm not just talking about them. I'm talking about high-powered politicians. Well, I got the endorsement from this person, from that person, and on and on and on. Now, if you were to talk to, and I've been in CD4, I've been in your district a lot, all right, talking to policemen, firemen, military people, and they really like the movement of Mike Crispy. They've told me that. But here's the thing. They don't know who these people are endorsing these establishment candidates. They have no idea who they are, And the other thing is, which I find amazing, well, I shouldn't find amazing, but I find interesting. When Rodney Frelinghuysen ran up in my district, he was a great congressman. He walked the streets, not only before an election, but after an election. I admired that in Rodney. Now, in the District 4 and in other districts around the state, with regard to establishment politicians, when I get around, I ask people, who's your congressman? And I get a stare and say, I don't know. Or I do know, but I haven't seen them ever until there's an election time. And then I remember one guy telling me, stick around, because as we get closer to November, we'll find out who he or she is. And to your point, when you are an absentee elected official, it is time to go. And again, I don't believe in character assassination, but I believe in facts. I think after a period of time, as our founding fathers said, it's time to understand that this job is a temporary job, not a full-time profession. And I want people in Canada, we got a lot of Canadians watching as well as Americans tonight. I want them to be encouraged by what you just said, Mike, that there is a way, right, to remove political office holders that are not in line with the values in which our countries believe in. And you're talking about that now, right? So tell us how you built your grassroots movement, how you were able to capture the imagination and the hearts of people who would not normally be involved in the political process.
Well, it's a challenge here, Steve, in New Jersey, as you know, because in New Jersey, unlike other states, the county parties, the county chairman, they have a lot of power over who gets to run and I guess you'd say the prime positions on the ballot. Let's put it that way, and they've protected, with all due respect, they've protected Chris Smith over the years because Chris was elected, as I say, under Jimmy Carter. He moved to Virginia in 1981 or 1983, I should say, and he comes back very rarely, very rarely. He hasn't had a town hall in New Jersey in over a decade. He does a couple fundraisers once or twice a year at the Jersey Shore, but people don't know who he is because he's very comfortable in this seat, and he's protected by the county chairman who give him the prime position on the ballot. And so the only way to defeat somebody like that, to run against the establishment, to run against the line, as we say in New Jersey, is to build a grassroots campaign from the ground up, to recruit candidates to run with us on the ballot for freeholder and for county commissioner now, and for sheriff, which we've done in Monmouth and Ocean counties. We've also recruited, just in Toms River alone, we recruited over 60 citizens to run for Republican County Committee on the ballot with us and to fill out that column so that our column looks visually identical to the column that'll be led by the establishment. So that's a critical component in New Jersey, which some folks underestimate. It's building out that line for the visual appearance of credibility on the ballot. That's one thing. But how do you galvanize these folks? It's the issues, Steve. It's the issues and the authenticity that Mike brings to the campaign. People genuinely believe, and they're correct, that Mike cares about the issues. He cares about the future of the country. He was genuinely inspired by President Trump over the last several years, covering him as a reporter for RSBN Network for the last 5 or 6 years, getting to know the issues, getting to know the players, and realizing that there's a very big disconnect between folks in Washington and the Beltway who live down there primarily, don't come back to their districts, and the people in the districts who want somebody to fight for America First policies. And so that's why the campaign is taking off.
Mike, I've been criticized by some in the Republican Party for quote unquote supporting an individual with youth and inexperience. But the irony of the criticism is that it's coming from critics who came to me when their kids, think about this, when their kids wanted to get involved in politics. When I speak about kids, I'm talking about kids in their 20s, late 20s, early 30s, who had a lot of youth and vigor, but certainly inexperience. So it shows me the hypocrisy of people, and they ought to be ashamed of themselves, because to me, guys like me that've been around the block, been all over the place, been to the White House several times, you name it, I've been there, done that, continue to want to do some more. I'm not going to ever retire until the good Lord tells me to retire. But my point is this. There are those who have been around a long time. And Mike, you've been around. I look at your resume, man, you've been around the block too. And I think it's important to know that those who are young and vigorous, to know that if they're willing to come and listen, as Mike Crispy has, and to get advice and to get guidance, then, man, I'll tell you, it says a lot about his character. It says a lot about the fact that, as it says in the Bible, there's safety in a multitude of counselors. And so I give him a lot of credit for that. But I just give him a lot more credit for not getting down in the dirt. I'm really bothered about it. I'm sure a lot of the viewers can tell, and my wife knows it's bothering me more and more, because as Republicans, as conservatives, Mike, we're supposed to support the Constitution, right? That's what we say. We support the Constitution. But if a Republican does not agree with a certain other Republican, right away, you're a rhino, you're a traitor, you're this, you're that. Well, either you serve the Constitution or you're serving the politician. I serve the Constitution other than serving God. And Mike has taken the approach, Mike Crispy, from what I see, has taken the approach that he's going to truly serve the Constitution and the people. And it says a lot to his character. So the next question is this. Well, what if another Republican wins the primary and you lose? And Mike's made it pretty clear to me, and you could expound upon this, that, look, he's in this for the country. Of course he wants to win, but look, there's nothing worse than a Democrat embracing the communist agenda getting elected to office. So you do the best you could, you fight the good fight of faith. If it don't come out your way, you don't betray the Constitution. It's not the party I'm talking about. You don't betray the Constitution. Mike?
You're absolutely right about that. And, we've seen, that's why you're seeing so many Trump Democrats nowadays, right? Because the Democrat Party has gone so far overboard that I can't think of, with the purging of Bart, I can't remember, Stupak from Pennsylvania, and the fellow in Illinois last year, pro-life congressman. There are no longer any conservative Democrats, remotely conservative Democrats in the entire Congress. And so, we will always support, time being, the nominee of the Republican Party, because there's really no comparison at this point. But as I said, the primary is the time and is the place to choose what kind of Republican leader you want in Congress. And in a district like this, especially 2025 Trump, it's time to send a conservative, America First fighter to Congress and not somebody who's, been there for 42 years and, has a lot of problems, voting for critical race theory, voting against the Second Amendment, voting for vaccine database, taking money. He has a pro-life reputation, taking money in recent years from companies that perform fetal stem cell research, voting to keep Obamacare after he said it was against it so many times. When John McCain gave that thumbs down, Chris Smith was right there with him, voting in that same vote to save Obamacare. So it's time to go. It's time to go. It's time for new blood. It's time for new energy. It's time for new passion. It's time for new enthusiasm, and Mike Crispy represents that.
Well, I'm excited about his campaign. We have a lot of other candidates be coming on before primary day. I've got to tell you, we're going to have some exciting things happening in the 4th district, your district, the 3rd, and the 7th. We got a little surprise coming out shortly with regard to the 7th congressional district. Mike, any last words? One more question I have for you. Did you hear when I opened up about what's happening in Canada?
I did.
What's your thought? Now, you're an American, regular guy in America, and you know what? What do you think of that?
Well, I have a lot of friends in Canada I went to college with. I have friends involved in the Right to Life movement in Canada. And I noticed that their Right to Life march, their annual march, which has been suspended because of, the pandemic for the last couple of years, that's coming up on May 12th, if I'm not mistaken. And so a lot of things we've seen there, I'm concerned about what could face these folks when you have a pastor that's being arrested just for preaching on the street. You have bank accounts that have been seized for the Freedom Convoy and so forth. And now our allies in the Right to Life movement are going to be out there again in force, I'm sure, on May 12th. How far is Justin Trudeau going to take this? He's sort of got away with it a little bit during the last month or two. Is he going to reprise some of these tactics again? So I'm a little concerned about that. And, we need to stand in solidarity with our friends in the North as they have stood with us and protect, certainly what is our First Amendment and, what are their natural God-given rights as well up there.
Did you hear that, my friends and neighbors in Canada? You heard it from a guy. I hadn't even planned to ask him about this, to talk about this, but here's an American citizen, very well aware what's going on. And I like what you said, Mike, together. We're going to stand together. And hey, like the guy behind me says, at the end of the day, they lose and we win.
Amen.
Mike, thanks so much. All right. God bless you. Give my regards to your fine candidate. And I'm sure we're going to be seeing you again. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.
Okay, folks. So there we go. You heard from a regular guy in the United States involved in politics. He has been watching too. You may not have heard on the news what's going on with relation to American support. I'm talking about American people's support for our Canadian neighbors, but it's out there, folks. And we're beginning to see this wave, all right, across America. Now, I'm going to be going on a tour across this country, hopefully beginning soon. It's a Let Freedom Ring tour with small groups, big groups, medium groups. We're going to be talking a lot about freedom and liberty and a lot about what's happening in Canada. So why, Lieutenant, would you want to talk about Canada? Because Canada is holding the line. And we got to get that across to our fellow countrymen here in America. They're holding the line. They're holding the line against the encroachment of a Trudeau government, allowing its embracing of Mark Stalin and Lenin agenda across our border. And we're not going to let it happen. And neither are the Canadians. So as we move forward, as Americans and Canadians, we're in solidarity together. We're going to work together, and we're going to fight this communist agenda. And we're going to make sure that in due time, it's going to be patience. We got to be patient. Very difficult for me at times, but we got to be patient. And we're going to make sure we encourage each other. We pray with and for each other. And as I say at the end of the day, as Ronald Reagan said, they lose, we win. Wednesday night, folks, big night. David Dolan from Canada will be with me. We got 2 major announcements. And then in a couple of weeks, perhaps we'll have the date, hopefully by, no, that's right. I just made a mistake. Not Wednesday night, Thursday night. You see that? Folks, when you get a little tired, you make the same mistake over and over again. So it's actually Thursday night. We're going to have David Dolan on. Thursday nights is our Canadian broadcast. And then I think what'll be a great lesson, an educational moment for people around the world is when we have Pastor Arthur on within the next week or two, next 2 weeks. He's the pastor who's been arrested and in prison for doing God's work. Doing God's work, folks. Communists don't like God. They don't like freedom. They don't like liberty. They just simply don't like us. Well, you know what? We don't like them. So we're going to do everything that we're doing within the framework of the law, and we're going to do everything possible to ensure that our children and grandchildren will shout from the rooftops, always, let freedom ring. Thursday night, folks, not Wednesday. Shame on me. Again, making that mistake. Thursday night, 7 p.m. here on the Patriot Desk. Thank you. God bless you, and God bless all freedom-loving people around the world. I'm Luke.